Hello, we're back for another Wednesday evening Facebook live show. I hope you guys are well, because of course that is what we're talking about these days. We're talking about our well-being. For those of you who don't know me, I think we have a few new members in the group. My name's Anna Lundberg. I'm in here every Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock GMT, so UK time. I think there's a bit of a disconnect for a couple of weeks now because of daylight savings in the US earlier than Europe and so on, but hopefully we'll be back on track in a couple of weeks. So I'm a business strategist and success coach, and as I said, I'm really focused at the moment both in my own life and with my clients in my group program, one-on-one actually, and also then on the blog and here on well-being. And it's clearly a topic that's resonating with a lot of people, and had some interesting comments and thoughts and questions coming in actually. So really glad that, you know, we can raise some awareness around this topic. I'm also doing a series of interviews with experts over on the blog on onestepoutside.com, where I had Tanya Diggory talking about managing mental health as an entrepreneur. I've got Kayla Curran in a couple of weeks talking about being an entrepreneur managing a chronic illness, specifically chronic fatigue syndrome, and then we've got some other great experts coming along as well. So it's going to be something that's going to be going on for a while, and I think it's absolutely core as entrepreneurs, so incredibly important. And in fact, again, these principles I think apply to everybody, but certainly when we're sort of locked into our rooms. Hi Serena, sitting at our computers as I am all the time, you know, I need to force myself to go out and so on. So I'm going to be happy to share my own personal strategies and tips for what they're worth. I've also got a few questions that I'll answer at the end, but do, you know, come with your questions if you're watching this live as well. If you have any, and if you watch the recording, of course, as well, I'll come back and comment, although I won't be able to respond live. I'd love to really sort of address and challenge some of these beliefs that we have, you know, the things like, oh, I don't have time, I can't do this, I'm not really that kind of person, whatever it is that's getting in the way. And of course, again, we tend to think about, you know, exercise and healthy eating, which is a struggle in itself. But that's really just a small part of what I see as being really holistic well-being. So if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to, first of all, well, not right now, but later on perhaps, go back to last week's One Step Outside group video, which was all about introducing this topic really and looking at those 5 levels of the well-being strategy. And then now, if you want to, you can follow along in the well-being strategy guide, because we're going to be using that today. It's at onestepoutside.com/well-being strategy. So you just need to put your email address so I can send it to you. It'll come automatically, so you should have that right away. But it's onestepoutside.com/well-being strategy, and you can do that after the live as well if you want to read up more about that. But we're talking at the moment this week about healthy business, healthy you. And I think that's so important. And health really in the broader sense, as I said, in terms of our well-being. And as we'll see, I think that really brings benefits both to you as an individual, but also, of course, has benefits and ripples right through your business and, in fact, for your relationships and loved ones as well. So incredibly important topic. So under this umbrella, healthy business, healthy you, I thought I'd today look at how we're going to embed that kind of broader sense of well-being, that well-being strategy, really at the heart of our business strategy. And we're not getting into the nitty-gritty at this stage. It's more sort of a conceptual idea, but I just hope that I encourage you to think, again, more broadly, more strategically about this idea of holistic well-being, whatever that means, but these different levels of being with people, relationships, managing our mental health, you know, getting the sleep we need, letting our minds explore creatively, learning, having that bigger meaning and purpose. You can see there's really sort of a complex ecosystem of stuff going on. But certainly I know from my own experience, sometimes I've had the basics in place. I've been eating well and exercising and so on, but I've been missing the top stuff there. And that's been quite sort of empty and limiting really. I haven't really felt well, you know, in a sort of true whole sense. And then on the other hand, if you're sort of exploring your purpose and doing all those amazing things at the top, but you're unwell, that's, you know, in the sort of basic physical sense of health, that's not going to be great either. So really it's about sort of balancing these 5 things. And, you know, just like when I talk about the 5 L's in the success audit, which you may have come across before if you've been part of my community for a while, this is not about getting sort of a 10 out of 10 on each of these levels, but it's just raising our awareness and recognizing perhaps that, you know, there's a bit of a gap there and we're running a little bit low on energy there and sort of shifting our focus. And often that's enough actually to do something about it. So the guide is at onestepoutside.com/wellbeing strategy. And without further ado, I'll sort of dig through those 5 different levels now with the benefits for you and your business. And then at the end, I'll answer the questions I've got now and anything else that pops up during the live. So, first of all, we're going to start at the top of the pyramid. And the pyramid, if you have the guide in front of you, has soul right at the top. And then it goes mind, heart, head and body. So we're going to go through each of these already. And I already see a question from you, Serena, so thank you very much. I'm going to read it out and remember to answer it at the end. So how do we know we are unwell if we feel we could keep on working full speed forever without stopping? And I think that's such an important question. I think, so many of us are capable, self-motivated. We love our work as entrepreneurs and we could go, or we feel like we could go forever. And unfortunately, we don't stop ourselves until it's too late, meaning that we burn out. And I've talked to countless people who this has happened to, which of course means that the business doesn't continue, isn't sustainable unless you have a team around you, which many of us don't. As soon as you break down, that's it for your business. And in the longer term, again, your relationships are going to suffer. You'll gain weight, lose weight, whatever your particular ailment is. And I think it's so important, and it's a difficult one, and let's try to explore that a little bit more together at the end. But certainly it's a great question in terms of how do we pause and stop ourselves. And I guess the only thing I would say already at this stage is, and that's the message throughout this really, is thinking of those the little steps that we can take. One of the podcasts I listened to today, actually, it was a guy who was a trucker. So he drives around America in these trucks, and he was saying he realised that these millions of truckers in the US, they're really borderline obese. A lot of them, I think he said 60 to 70%. They travel in these massive sort of tractors with long carriages after them. They can't get off the road to go to a gym. They've got no space, and they can't eat healthily. They can't cook. They can't bring their stuff with them, and so on. And he developed this 4-minute exercise routine for them that they were supposed to do every morning. And the routine itself was literally just do sort of full speed, full intensity, anything at all. And I think he said one guy was just like rolling around in bed, whatever that means. But full intensity, 4 minutes. And then the rest of the day was sort of trying to eat more protein and less carbs. So sounds very simple. But just to say that, even in those very extreme situations, it's possible to do little things to tweak what we're doing. So I think taking those few minutes to just breathe, going outside for a quick walk, snuggling with your cat, that I know you have a little guest cat, Serena, or finding some moment to sort of take a breath. And I think, also always being compassionate about yourself and being kind, because we don't want, and this is a struggle for me as well, we don't want this to become one more thing on our to-do list, another sort of guilty thing that, I really should do yoga, and then when I don't do yoga I feel bad, and then I'm more stressed, and that's not helpful at all. So just something to be bearing in mind. But definitely that's why I am raising the awareness here now. So we don't want to get this to the point where we get those migraines, collapse in a heap, have chronic pain and so on, and make things worse in the future as well. So very important to raise this awareness now. So as I was saying, so we start at the top of the pyramid rather than at the base, because that tends to be where we want to start. And I think Serena and many of us as entrepreneurs, we have that top level, right, at the soul, in the sense of, not necessarily something spiritual or religious, but having that deeper meaning and purpose. And I often talk about Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he had a book which I definitely recommend, which was called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's all around how really it's the meaning that gives people a reason to survive, of course, in incredibly difficult circumstances, and there are a lot of other factors there as well. But rather than, I want to be happy and so on, it was having that purpose of knowing I think I have a wife and kids that I need to look after, or in his case, I want to publish this paper when I come out, and whatever it is. So, in those very difficult circumstances, and of course, we're very lucky mostly to be in much better and completely far removed from that. So really one thing to say is that we need to be grateful for the amazing opportunities we have. But within the, tougher times that we experience as entrepreneurs, it's really having that purpose and passion and drive, but not in an ambitious sense, but really thinking of that bigger thing that you're trying to achieve, really, the meaning, who you're trying to help, what is it that you care about in the world that you're trying to do something about, and that's going to get you through those tough times. So in terms of the benefits for your business, putting my business marketing hat on, you may have heard of Simon Sinek, who did a TED Talk and a book as well, and goes around talking about all sorts of things now, but it was called Start With Why. And it's all about, he says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so rather than, the classic example is Apple, it's not, Apple says buy our computers, but they say, we believe in being creative, thinking differently, we are the innovators, the crazy ones, and so on. And then we as Apple fans, we buy into that model, we buy into those values. Yes, I'm creative, I think differently, and therefore the Mac is the computer for me. So, people are buying why you do it these days, and we can think of Patagonia as another one. There are some social enterprises like Tom's and Warby Parker who manage to manage the profit on the one side with the social impact. And it's not necessarily that you have to donate money to charity or anything like that. The simplest product could be around, helping people solving some kind of problem. So it doesn't have to be a charity or anything. We're just talking about your personal meaning and why this is important to you. So clearly from a business perspective, the best practices now is absolutely around having that purpose. So as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner, your personal purpose will probably be aligned with your business or professional purpose. So that's great. So if you're a bigger business or company, they might be unrelated or at least slightly related, but they wouldn't be exactly a copy. That's on the business side. And then sort of echoing that really, but on the personal side, again, going back to Viktor Frankl and having that meaning, it's so incredible to wake up, to jump out of bed, to have that spark, to know why you're going to the office, even if it's your home office on Monday morning, or if you're building this business alongside your full-time job, to have that reason to get out of bed. And yes, you have to go to the office and do this boring stuff, but then you get to at the weekend, work on your passion project or whatever it is. So that keeps you motivated again through those tough times. It gives you that spark and excitement, and that helps you put up with a lot of other things. And actually I had that chat with someone who was a bit worried about adding something else onto their list, but actually realised, if you're adding something that you love, that lights you up, that brings you to life, that's not something that's going to drain your energy, it's actually going to give you energy. So as counterintuitive as that may seem, adding a project, something that's incredibly meaningful to you and that you're excited about, that you love, that you're sort of inspired to do something, you have that bigger purpose, that can actually, again, bring you energy, even though in theory it's adding something else onto your list, if that makes sense. So that's the very top of the pyramid, and the benefits there, both for the business from a branding perspective, from, again, all the best practices now. When we do a brand strategy, we always put that mission and purpose at the top, and then also from the personal perspective of getting you that spark, getting you through those tough times, and giving you that meaning, which almost is, if not the meaning of life, it is definitely a meaning of life. And again, Viktor Frankl says it's really up to us as an individual to define what that meaning is, which is great. So that gives you the ownership of your destiny in a way. So that's the top, the soul for the business and the individual. The next one is the mind. And I'm a big fan, as you may know, of learning, lifelong learning, growing, the whole concept of getting out of your comfort zone, stretching your boundaries, what's possible, learning and so on, personal development, the whole coaching. I'm constantly learning myself and doing courses and working with a coach and so on. And I think there's an element of sort of higher well-being. It just sounds a bit snobby, but this kind of something that again inspires you, the fulfilment and satisfaction that comes from learning something new. When you start, you don't know how to do it, you're rubbish, you feel awful, you think, oh, I never want to do this again. But sometimes you stumble on something that you absolutely love, and even though it's difficult, you keep going. And there's that stat that you have to do something for 10,000 hours in order to master it, which is a long time. I don't think I've got that to that level in anything apart from sort of walking and talking, but certainly there's a big element of hours putting in the effort and learning and so on. But the great thing is that even if you don't reach the 10,000, or before you reach the 10,000, the process itself of learning is incredibly fulfilling and satisfying. So I love that. It's it's the journey and not the destination, as they say. So in terms of learning and growing and creativity, from a business perspective, I may have talked about before, I do quite a bit of marketing and business strategy work and training, and there at the moment I'm doing a big project in digital disruption of different sectors. And we're talking about the Internet of Things, everything's going to be connected, artificial intelligence and automation and all these things, the sensors and goodness knows what else. Blockchain, if you've heard of that, is the technology that makes cryptocurrencies possible, but it has vast applications across other sectors. The curve of how quickly these technologies are coming is absolutely mind-boggling. The rapid pace of change makes it impossible almost to stay on top of it. And I certainly have never said that I would be the expert. I'm not a futurologist or anything like that. I try to stay on top of things, but it's certainly not possible for me, and I would never claim myself to be an expert. I like to sort of know a little bit of everything, so I'm a bit more of a generalist. But all that to say that the world is moving so quickly. That's technology. Society is changing a lot, whether it's politics or even things like, Uber and Airbnb. These things were things that we would never have used a few years ago. The fact that I have the voice-activated assistant over there, I try not to say her name because when I do, she interacts with me, but the tubular shaped object that comes from Amazon or the Google Home or Apple or whatever you have. But it's something that we just didn't have a few years ago. Even the very fact that we can work from home now, be a digital nomad and work from anywhere, that's all enabled by technology, by all these things changing, by employers being more open to part-time work and so on. So it's absolutely imperative as someone in this world, whether you want to start a business or not, whether you're just whether you're continuing on in sort of a more conventional career, I would absolutely recommend that you take ownership of your own training and learning and development. Don't wait for your boss to tell you to go on this, that and the other. And before I left Procter & Gamble, where I was working some years ago now, I made sure that I went to all the trainings. I did that anyway, but certainly when I knew I was leaving, I tried to sort of invest in myself as much as possible, of course. And as I said, I often do courses and everything. So, you need to keep upskilling. And for your business, there's two elements to that. So one is the actual activity that you're doing. So in my case, maybe coaching or speaking, writing. I need to get better at sort of the actual business, the thing that brings in the money, the activity, the craft, if you want to call it that. So that's one area. But then the other area that we all need to get better at is marketing and sales and business and so on. So, there's those two elements of both the core of your activity. I'm not trying to find the words here, but whether you're baking cakes, Serena, or whatever it is, you're constantly trying to get better at that activity, but then also you want to get better at getting clients and engaging them and building customer loyalty and so on. So absolutely imperative for a business owner and for anyone in any kind of career who wants to be proactive and actually manage their career. And again, by the way, in careers, nobody these days is going to have one of those linear careers where you just put your head down, work hard, and you'll have that company loyalty and stay with one company the rest of your life. So again, making sure that you have those transferable skills and being able to adapt, being flexible, being like an intrapreneur, so being an entrepreneur but inside the company is absolutely vital. And then in terms of the personal benefits of this, I talked again about, how much I love this. I think a lot of you guys probably do too. Again, the personal fulfillment, the enjoyment that comes simply from learning something new. And, I really think as well that we do better work when we enjoy the work. We enjoy the work more when we're good at it. So it's really a win-win and a very sort of virtuous circle there. So I think, very clear benefits of this idea of learning and creativity, working with a coach as well, stretching yourself and always pushing forwards in a way. Pushing, not too hard, but, advancing, taking steps to continue moving forwards. So that's the second level of the pyramid. The third one is the heart. And that's really at the heart of, if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is sort of not quite, but certainly sort of echoes what I have, or rather I guess mine echoes his because he came first. But the heart is all around relationships and belonging and, to be honest, love on a number of different levels. So it's relationships with the people that you work with, relationships with your clients and with your peers, with your friends, with your family. A lot of us, want to start a business precisely because of the freedom and flexibility it gives us, and yet somehow we get caught up in the hustle and we deprioritize friends and we've got to finish this and there's a deadline and so on. Or we're not feeling well and, we're just not optimal. So when we are with these people, we're not very present, we're checking our phones, we're tired, we're grumpy. And that's why I said at the beginning, this can really have a negative impact on your relationships as well. So this idea of heart, so relationships internally in the company, with a team if you have one, externally and so on. And I've talked as well about having a tribe, and the good thing is we're all part of that tribe, and hopefully you agree. So this Facebook group is really here for exactly that reason, to be able to share challenges that we're facing, to support each other 100%, to believe in each other. It's really very, it can really wear you down when you're the first person in your group, perhaps. Certainly, when I was in that sort of corporate bubble, when I started having some different thoughts, it's difficult because everybody else is still very much, or at least on the outside, appears to be very comfortable on sort of the promotion track, moving towards certain goals and so on. And for me, it was taking myself out of that environment, out of that bubble, traveling across South America, meeting the most amazing different people from all sorts of walks of life doing different things, that made me realise how many possibilities there are out there. So again, getting out of your comfort zone, meeting some other people, going to events. But this Facebook group, the intent again is to have at least an online tribe, and we're in all sorts of different places around the world. And I think actually the data now says that an online support network is as effective as an offline, so that's good. But if you do like face-to-face contact, and I'd always recommend that you add that into the mix as well. So whether it's an evening, one-off now and then, or going to a conference or something, finding a co-working space to work, so you're not alone and so on. So the benefits of this for the business, of course, are clear, I think, as well, in terms of both enjoying yourself more, in terms of, the team working better together, nurturing relationships with your clients, your customers and so on. That, of course, is going to have better results for the business as well. And then on the personal level, it can be incredibly isolating to work by yourself. And even if you're, like me, very self-motivated and independent, it's still really nice to have someone to go for coffee with, someone to message with and celebrate when you've done something really great, someone to sort of vent at when you've had some issue with your website or whatever it is, and to have that support network around you, so critical. And we talked about that with Tanya Diggory a couple of weeks ago around mental health. Stress and so on that we're talking about now, they're not actually mental health issues, but they're certainly precursors to mental health. So if you're feeling these levels of stress and, whether it's tension in your body and you're not able to sleep or whatever it is, do, again, going back to Serena's question at the beginning, do really take your awareness, focus it in on this now before it becomes a bigger problem. So make sure you have someone you can have as a sounding board, to share your ideas, to have that support network, and not to have the people who say, oh, do you really think you can do that? And that's a crazy idea. Oh, well, good luck. Never going to happen kind of thing, because they're the people who are afraid themselves. Because it's never about you. It's always projecting their own fears, and there's no judgment of them. But the fact that you're now questioning these things, or going off and doing something amazing, maybe you're writing a book or going traveling or starting a business, whatever it is, that puts their life a little bit into question. And not that you're in any way judging them when you're making these choices, but they might want to do some of those things and they just don't quite have the courage, and so they kind of project those feelings onto you. So as important it is to stay in touch with your friends and family and so on, it's also really important to get away from that existing group and to find new people to talk to. So I'm just going to get a glass of water. I'm babbling on here for a long time. There we go. So see, I've gone longer than usual already. I've really almost gone half an hour, but it's such an important topic and something I'm very passionate about. So really happy to be focusing on this today. So we've done soul, mind and heart, and now we get to the stuff that I suppose is more traditionally, I guess, associated with well-being. First of all, the mental part, so the head. So I've talked in the group the last few weeks around my migraines. I think in general, in our society and in our types of businesses and careers and work, we do all the work in our heads. We're at our computers, eye strain and stuff, staring at our screens. It's thinking, not a lot of physical work. And so managing that is absolutely critical. So taking breaks, and I know this sounds patronising, I know it sounds obvious, and I know it also sounds incredibly difficult because we've got so much to do, and I don't need a break, as Serena was saying again, I can keep going, I know I can do it, And you know, I love this because I love my business and I love writing and I've got this other thing to do. It's so easy to just keep going all day. But if you're going to try to use your head a bit cleverly, there's this idea of working smarter rather than harder, right? And all the studies now say that you get better results, you're more productive, you're more effective when you take breaks, when you work in bursts, when you go out and get some fresh air, when you have a snack, you know, when you sort of get up and stretch and do something else. So, you know, even if it's, I just wrote an article about this the other day, but, you know, I try to grab a pen and paper and go and sit on the sofa for a bit and go and listen to podcasts, go for a walk or scribble on my whiteboard, just so I'm not always sitting at my computer. So in terms of this, in terms of your business, of course, again, if you're having stress or potentially further down the line, mental health issues, really struggling, not working efficiently, making stupid mistakes. I have done that when I've been tired. It's not been good. Even when not tired, but when I was trying to do something quickly on holiday a while ago, you should not be working on holiday. I managed to send, you know, my email that's supposed to be going out on Fridays. I sent it on the Sunday. Super stressed. So instead of this sort of work that I was doing being like a good thing, that I'd actually covered something there, it became just another stress factor. So complete nightmare and not very productive. But we learn from these things as well. So in terms of your business, there's obviously benefits to managing your mental strength, focus, making sure you're not making those unnecessary mistakes and taking those breaks and so on. And then from a personal level, of course, you reduce the chance of migraines, you feel fresher for your business, so you enjoy your work more, and you feel fresh, you know, for when you leave your work behind and go off to your family and friends as well. So some obvious benefits there as well. And again, having someone to talk to at this level is so important to get that out, so you're not just in your head and worrying about things. And then finally we come to the base, so we come to the body, the traditional sort of sense of physical health and well-being. And also and speaking of health, I think I'm beginning to get my allergies now because of hay fever. So there's some beautiful flowers coming, but unfortunately that means hay fever for me. But the base is really the exercise, the healthy eating and so on. But we don't want this to be, again, another thing that we're just putting on our list. So thinking about, you know, creatively, what kind of exercise could I enjoy? How could I fit that in? How can I focus on adding nutrition into my diet, say a healthy smoothie in the morning, a shake, rather than restricting whole food groups and so on. Drinking more water. I got these bottles. I don't need this because I drink so much water, but I got a bottle for my boyfriend and myself that has time increments on. So it says, you know, you fill it up and then it says, I don't know, 10 a.m, 12, etc. And you know that you've drunk it, and then you fill it up again and do the afternoon. Works really well, apparently. There are ways in which we can trick ourselves, right? There are apps for, there's one called Stand Up, which reminds you now and then to stand up every couple of hours. Or more than every couple of hours, actually, but you can set it. So all these, you know, there's technology that you can use, there are little tricks and things. Sleep is the other thing, you know, again, turning off the devices. So after this, you know, I'm going to make sure that I turn off my computer and phone, turn the lights off. Maybe I listen to a podcast or something. I might play the piano. Ideally, I'd probably read a book or something, tidy up a bit, get ready for tomorrow, and, you know, just try to wind down. And then again, get into bed without the devices and so on. Again, it seems obvious, but I think a lot of us don't do it because it's so tempting to bring our phones to bed, and certainly I do that too. So the benefits of that, of course, again, just going back to for the business, you know, again, if your body breaks down, if you're not in a good place, that's going to be very detrimental to your business. And likewise, of course, for you personally, if you're suffering from migraines or chronic pain and so on, you know, that's not going to be a nice thing for you within your work environment, but also then outside when you're with your friends and family. So those are the 5 levels, again, applying those from the wellbeing pyramid to sort of the different aspects of your business, from the soul, from that bigger purpose, to your mind, learning, creativity, at the middle there, the heart, the belonging, the tribe, the connection with other people, then the head, you know, the mental strength and resilience and taking breaks and all those things, and then finally the body and your physical health as well. So I hope that's given you a few possibly reminders. It's things that you've heard before and you just think, oh, I'm not doing that right now. Or, you know, actually this particular area is somewhere where I'd like to focus a bit more. You know, if you have the guide, so again, onestepoutside.com/wellbeing strategy, and you can print that out once you've put your little ideas in there, you can put it on the board. I actually, true to form, filled the pyramid with all sorts of things for each line. One of my clients sent me her pyramid and she had been very very focused and had really the core thing for each level. So do whatever works for you. I'd suggest that her idea is probably better, rather than listing like the 10 things that I do anyway, like drink water and so on. Identifying the one thing that this week, this month is going to make the biggest difference for you, and then you can actually focus on another thing maybe next month and so on. So within all this, again, taking those little one steps, and not putting too much pressure on yourself, because this is not meant to be another stressful thing you're putting onto your plate. But the main message, if I can give you one message, one takeaway from all of this, is to prioritise well-being. It's not an afterthought. It's not a thing that you'll do when, later on, when your business is off the ground, when you're not taking care of 5 children and 2 dogs, whatever the reason is or excuse, those truckers can do it. Other people have done it in very difficult situations, and if nothing else, we need to do it. I always love to think of that, what the flight attendant says on the plane: put your own oxygen mask on before you can help other people. And that's really key. So even if you think you're being selfless, I've got to take care of the kids, my partner, the dog, my sick mother, whatever it is, my business and so on. Again, you need to think a bit rationally, take a step back and think, actually, if I break down, if I suffer, if I get angry with them and teary and collapse or whatever it is, or have serious health issues further down the line, that's actually going to cause way more problems. So much better, again, to go back to the question at the beginning, to try to stop this in its tracks and to do those little things now. It's a little bit like compound interesting, interest, when they say that you should invest when you're younger. If you invest a few pounds now and then when you're younger, that will actually, give you a huge amount of savings when you're older. Whereas if you start 10, 20 years later, it's kind of too late. A little bit like the same way, we're investing in ourselves, investing in our health. So the sooner you start, the better, in little increments. So that's the 5 levels. I did just want to cover a few of the questions that I got before and anything else that comes in. One of them is not so much a question as sort of an excuse or a reason, which is the I don't have time that I mentioned at the beginning. And, I've already mentioned that trucker guy who came up with the 4-minute exercise routine. And I didn't mention the results, but these guys, they lost, someone lost like 60 pounds or something. On average, they lost 16 pounds, it's huge and really transforming these guys' lives. And just to say that, there are very small tweaks we can do. Certainly if you're living a very unhealthy life, it's very easy, I find, to cut something out and to make some small tweak. It's typical things that they always say, but I now always walk up the escalator, the stairs. I actually have integrated now regular HIIT exercise into my routine. I miss it when I don't do it. I am noticing, muscle tone in my body, which I never thought would happen. I'd still like to do more yoga. Today, for example, in terms of sort of taking breaks and so on, I spontaneously took a couple of hours off in the afternoon to go for a walk with my dad in the park. I did mean to go do yoga, I saw in my calendar, so I missed that, unfortunately. But, I saw these beautiful flowers when we were out. I just cooked a very healthy meal, sort of chickpea pea falafels with salad. I made some little healthy sort of snacks and some kind of, they're called cloud bread, so kind of a non-floury bread in a way that's made of Philadelphia and eggs and so on. But I made all these things, so first of all I'd have a bit of a break in the kitchen, but then also that I have those snacks around. So, there are things that we can do, and I think I'd suggest that when you say I don't have the time, I would first of all say probably that's not true, and it's a choice that you're choosing to do other things, right? So one thing you can do is track your time for a week. There's a tool called Toggl, toggl.com, Toggl, and you can actually track every minute of every day or week, and you'll find, one client said, oh gosh, I'm only doing 2 or 3 hours of work a day, and you realise that you're filling the rest of the time with other stuff. Certainly the typical culprits are, social media, scrolling, TV and so on. It's not to say that we shouldn't or can't do those things, but we can certainly find the time. And often it's also, it's to do with the belief that, we have to do half an hour, we have to go to the gym, we have to do a big chunk of exercise. And so when we have a 20-minute break, instead of doing those 15-20 minutes, we do nothing. So it's sort of an all or nothing approach. So again, those little steps, do some lunges at the microwave, do some stretches, sit-ups in the morning, and that's just talking about exercise and food now, but certainly the I don't have time, I think I would challenge you there and sit down and make the time, book it into your calendar, make it a sacred appointment and non-negotiable for you. Another one that came up was, what do I do? And there's a poor girl who got ill suddenly, and that happened to me so many times, that you have all these, your best intentions, you're so excited about your projects, you're going to do this, and I'm going to go exercise, and I'm going to eat healthily and so on, and then boom, you're knocked down with a bad cold, a flu, virus, whatever it is, and it's so frustrating because you so want to do all these things, and it's just worse because you're having to postpone these deadlines, you're getting late on things, it's going to be even more stressful, you have to work even though you're ill. Sometimes I work through my migraines, which is not a good idea. And what I would say is, look, most of us are not working in life or death industries. Even if you are, probably if you're ill, you shouldn't be out there saving lives if you're a doctor or whatever you're doing. But we're not in life or death industries, and I would try to take a step back, have that perspective of, is this actually going to kill me, kill that person? If I say, gosh, I'm so sorry, it's going to be a day late, 3 days late. What are the things that you absolutely have to do? And I would say probably there aren't that many. And what can you deprioritise? And then, yes, when you get better, you will have a few days of, having to do a bit more work. But I'm sure, and in my experience, you'll see that it only takes a day or two to get back on track and you're fine. So taking a step back, sort of putting it into perspective a little bit, not sort of catastrophising too much. And above all, taking care of yourself, because you're ill. So be kind to yourself, be compassionate. Don't keep pushing yourself, and recognise, I'm frustrated, it's a shame, I'd love to do this other stuff, but I'm just not feeling well, and do what you need to do to get better. Of course, once you're better, then you can maybe analyse that situation a little bit and see, what was happening there? Was I working too much? Had I been, neglecting my self-care? What can I do to manage my immune system, strengthen that going forward? And that's something to think about when you're better. But in the meantime, all you can do is focus on getting better. And I promise you, the world is not going to end in those few days that you're not very well. Another thing you can do is think about next time, how can you set up your business or your life so that there are sort of better support structures in place for when that kind of thing happens. So in my case, I'm looking at getting a team together, maybe outsourcing, having people and systems in place so that if I get ill, my business will still keep on running at least to some degree. And then the other question I had here was around, well, a little bit related to the interview that I mentioned at the beginning in terms of managing chronic pain and a desk job. And, is it even possible, same for me with my migraines, is it even possible to have this kind of desk job? We're so tied to our computers and so on. Do we have to just deal with it and we're going to deal with having pain and migraines and all these things, or is there another way? And I think, again, we need to think a little bit creatively, start reimagining success. It's very easy to think that I need to be at my computer all the time. It's the only way to earn money, to have this kind of work. And in our day and age, we have to have computers. But I was thinking about this myself. So, for example, I love writing. This is part of, why I want to leave my corporate job. I want to write. I do write a lot. I get paid to write. I write. And writing needs to be on the computer. But of course, there are other ways I could do that. So pen and paper, which I do sometimes, and I love it. The best thing ever is to write on a plane when there's no Wi-Fi, but sitting by the beach, outside in the garden, on the sofa, there are other places I can write. Also, there are people who dictate into their phones, so I could go for a walk and just talk into my dictating app, right? So there are other ways to do that. And with my coaching as well, I tend to sit here with my phone. I like to be focused and concentrate, maybe take some notes. But again, a couple of times I was doing a challenge, a wellbeing challenge actually before Christmas, where the expert suggested doing a walk and talk. And I asked a couple of my clients, do you mind if I go for a walk while we talk? And they said it's fine. Sometimes it's a bit hard where I live because there's lots of traffic and noise. But ideally, if I was in a park or something, that would be fine. We still did it on the phone, but I was walking, and that was nice. And actually, I could focus even more and be really present and listening. Ideally, I'd love to meet clients face to face and go for a walk in the park or take them out on the river or something like that. So even if that's not possible right now, it can certainly be something that I build into my plan, my vision for the business in the future. So just a couple of ideas there of how you can think creatively within your current reality, and then especially when you're running your own business or starting your own business, making sure that you're setting up in a way that is going to work for you and not sort of tying yourself down into those same routines that you were struggling with before. And do keep an eye out for Kayla Curran's interview. It's coming on 27th of March on the blog. She talks about managing her chronic pain. And it was interesting because for her, she hadn't planned to start her own business. She didn't feel ready, but she was looking at sort of job descriptions for roles, and she just realised these are not going to work for me. It's too much stress. it's this fast-paced environment and so on that sounds so challenging and appealing to us all, but she just recognised she had the self-awareness to realise that wasn't going to work. So she ended up starting her business, and she now has 2 successful businesses. She's location independent, travels around, and makes really intentional choices around clients and projects and time management. And of course, sometimes there are issues. The internet goes down, power cuts, and so on. We all have those things. Websites crash and so on, and that's stressful and that's not great. But she's making really intentional choices to shape a business, to shape a life that lets her be as well as she possibly can be. And that's, again, the key message here is we are able to reimagine what success looks like, put well-being at the heart of our businesses. And again, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but in the longer term, we can really shape a business around our core values, around having that tribe of supportive people, around the purpose, so that we're working towards that bigger mission, making sure that we're plugging in the day-to-day exercise and nutrition and so on. And I have to say, the last few weeks that I've really been focusing on this, I have felt so much better. And more than that, I've still been getting my work done, and perhaps, and I haven't been tracking it, but perhaps even I've been getting more work done, better work done. So, this idea of having to hustle, work all the time, not take breaks and so on, I think is a fallacy. And I think actually, even if you think you don't have time for this, I think you don't have time not to do this. You don't have time not to focus on your well-being. So I'm going to stop there. I think I've been going on for long enough, but I hope I covered those questions that had come in before. Thanks for watching, and if you're watching the recording, do please comment, share your own experiences, share your tips, share your questions, and I'll be sure to answer them right away. Again, we'll be continuing on with this topic, in the next few weeks and months. Building a business that's really going to put well-being at the heart is much more than just, thinking about these little levels and eating better and so on. And it's really about how we're going to build the business strategy, set up, the sales and marketing tactics and so on, have the mentoring, coaching support that we need and everything. So, it's a lot more detail. We're getting into that granular detail, but certainly, hopefully this has given you a few ideas, a few reminders, and as ever, I'd love for you to think about what's the one step based on everything I've said today, the one step that you can take today or tomorrow, maybe if you're in Europe and it's getting late this evening. But maybe today, maybe you'll turn your phone off now after you've watched this, and you'll go and, play an instrument, or snuggle with your cat, or snuggle with your partner, or whatever it is. Do some yoga, go for a walk, whatever it is, but something small. And then see what it is you can do every day to carve out a little bit more time to take care of yourself, to make a little bit better choices, and not have that kind of black and white extreme thinking of it's either all or nothing. So hopefully that's given you food for thought, healthy food for thought with lots of nutrition. I wish you a lovely, wonderful, restful sleep, a great week now with productive working towards your passion projects and goals and purpose in life. Connecting with other wonderful people, connecting here in the group. I'd love to see you chatting here in the group and sharing your experiences and asking questions. And then I look forward to seeing you next week again, same time again. Facebook live show here in the group every Wednesday at 8 o'clock UK time. So let's all try to focus on that healthy business, healthy you, and I'll do the same over here as well. Thanks so much and see you soon. Bye for now.